Oh, this is exciting. First episode, boys. First episode. That's fun. This is great. Okay. First episode. I guess that just calls for some introductions. So, I will be I don't want to call I don't want to call myself the host. That's pretentious. I'm not someone who likes to label things. But I am going to be one of your hosts. I am Mike, and I'm joined here today with my very good friends, my bestest friends in the whole world. I'm joined here by Nikana.
Hi. I'm Nakano. I'm the one that verbally abuses Mike to get him to do stuff. And it 100%. Every time.
If it wasn't for him, this podcast would probably not happen. Exactly. That is a fact. That is an absolute fact.
And we know for a fact because episode 1, he's already late.
Yes, so just for context's sake, if anyone ever comes back to watch the very first episode of this podcast, because I guarantee you there'll be 0 viewers for this for like a good few years, I said, hey, are we going to start the podcast, like the very first recording of the podcast at 7? And everyone was like, yep, that's fair enough. And then I show up about 15 minutes late for reasons I will not disclose.
I won't disclose them either.
No, I'm so glad you won't. Thank you. Also, we have a third member of this podcast who we probably would feel... Let's be honest, if it was just the two of us, there would definitely be an empty chair. And that chair could only be filled by Professor Sauce.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and gals, old and young. Welcome to the podcast. My name is Professor Sauce, but you feel free to call me Sauce. I'm completely fine with either. I am very, very happy to be here, boys. Thank you for welcoming me here.
Okay, so that's all pleasantries out of the way. I'm going to stop sounding like I'm scripted, because I'm not. And that's actually another funny thing that I can mention, is that I was the one who suggested that we should come in with some notes. And then, out of the 3 of us, the only one that brought in notes was Nikana. And I'll be honest, I didn't want to... I actually, was debating whether or not to bring in notes, because...
He's really good at debating. He's a master debater.
Same.
I believe Source takes that prize. I think he's...
I will master debate on anything.
100%, 100%.
The original name for the podcast was going to be the 2 Cents Podcast, but as we came to find out, that's like a very common name for podcasts. There's about I think I saw 3 podcasts that all had the same name called the 2 Cents Podcast.
3?
Yeah, well, there was a lot more than 3, but
I only saw 1.
Had, 1 video, so I don't really count it. The name we have now is the Allowed to Think Podcast. Well, not the Allowed to Think Podcast, but just Allowed to Think. So the idea behind that is you're allowed to come here to this podcast. We will ask these questions to get you to think, maybe, and there'll be some tough questions that a lot of people say you shouldn't think about this or you shouldn't think about that, to try and kind of dictate how you think. But at the same time, it's also a platform for people to come in and, I think the main thing that me and Mike and Source want people to sort of take away from this is that everyone's on a journey, everyone's on a walk, everyone's figuring out what they're going to do, who they're going to become, etc, etc, etc. And this podcast, I think we can all agree that we'll have some fun times, but this podcast will also kind of, I guess, track our walk in life, on how we change, on how we grow, etc, etc, etc. But yeah, so that's sort of my opinion on it. What about you, Mike?
I'm just coming off the back of that. I'm comfortable to disclose this. I am in my extremely early 20s, and yeah, so that's I didn't actually think of it that way until you said it. But basically, this podcast is a very good way to track all of our progress, and we can, for example, I'll lead with blind confidence. Let's say 5 years from now, we could be doing let's say the 1000th episode of this podcast, and we could all go back and we could say, hey, let's go check out episode 1 and let's see what our opinions were then versus now. And that would be that, if not for the fact that we actually want to open a doorway for people and say, look, we want to listen to what you have to say. We want to hear your opinion. Maybe you want to ask us about something. And guys, are you comfortable with me disclosing your age bracket as well?
Yeah.
Go for it.
So we're all in our extremely early 20s, which means that we're basically beginning our lives. We're all legal adults, and we are already at the point where we're looking back on our premature years and wishing we could go back and just beat the ever living shit out of ourselves. Because frankly, I think I can speak for all three of us. That's a dream of mine, to just go back and give myself just a really, really good kick in the gut. You know, just no holds bar. You know.
Yeah. Good old 1-2 to the forehead.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah, no. Now, as I said, the only one of us that actually had notes planned was Nakana. So I'm gonna actually just give Nakana the mic, the proverbial mic, really quick, and just let him air that out, and we're probably gonna take it from there.
Alright. Okay, so I actually have 3 questions, okay? Now,
Okay.
since no one took notes, I'm going to ask you these 3 questions, both of you, and then I'll give my one last.
Alright.
I'm going to start with Sauce. Professor Sauce.
Let's go.
Right. The first question: who did you used to be in terms of personality, in terms of the way you did stuff, the way you worked, etc., etc.?
I'll be completely honest. For the past 3 to 4 years of my life, I've been completely stagnant. Of course, over the course of that years, I've tried, in some ways, to try and improve myself as a better person, but for lack of a better word, I've just stayed the same person as I have in these recent years. But I guess back in the day, I was someone who had some amount of ambition, but not enough drive, really, to pursue those dreams that I had when I was a kid. And because of that lack of motivation, all I've really done now is just drop out of university, and now I'm just sitting in my house looking for jobs and just wondering where life is going to take me, really.
I'd actually like to jump on that, and this is a question we've asked you so many times outside of the podcast, just because, let's face it, you're the friend we worry about the most. You've been in your house for how long now, did you say? You've been, since for 3 years? 4 years?
Yeah, around there, yes.
Yeah, so why don't you think you got that kick to, how should we say, to actually go out and get a job, get a career path, start paving the way for yourself? Like, what happened there at that particular point?
Well, I mean, to answer half of your question, the kick is there now because I do want a job. I am actively searching one, and I have taken steps towards it. But back then, when I wasn't, I think, honestly, the biggest answer to it is I'm just an extremely lazy person. That's just it. I got really lazy halfway through high school because I found out that I had a talent to memorize things really quickly. And that led me to being able to just ace any test I wanted to, but I would just settle with the bare minimum.
Like photographic memory?
Not quite photographic memory, but it's just, how do I explain it? It just comes to me really quickly. When I think of a keyword, I can align a lot of information to just that one keyword.
Oh, so just like really good pattern recognition.
Yeah, pattern recognition. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, actually,
okay.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
And so because of that, it just enabled me to kind of just breeze through high school. And I guess because I just took the bare minimum in all my tests, I formed really bad habits, really lazy habits, where I just wouldn't find much motivation to, even get out of bed to eat breakfast. Not because I'm depressed or anything, but it's just because I don't know. I was just really, really lazy. I'm so lazy now, but
do you
thankfully,
do you actually don't think you were depressed?
I don't think so now. Because if I compare my mentality now to 3-4 years ago, it's pretty similar. I would say I have more drive now than before, but if you asked me, oh, what do I think about this band? Or, hey, do you like this music? Or what's your opinion on this religion or something? 99% of the answers, they'd all be the same.
Yeah, I would consider you a fence sitter because you don't really take sides. You're kind of like the hey man, whatever works for you.
Now the question is who do you want to be?
Ooh, I like that one.
Well, I could give you a lot of answers to that. But probably the main one that I want people to take away from this, and my personal opinion of my own future, is I want to be someone who has the power to protect what he wants to protect, whether it be through reliability, through finances, emotional support, if I'm just empathetic to somebody else, just possibly a pillar of reliability to the people I care about. I'm no saint. I'm not going to go out of my way and help a grandma who's struggling. Okay, I might do that, but I'm not going to do that all the time if I notice it. Yeah. Because there are days where I don't want to interact with people. I am not a people person. To the people that I care about, I want to show to them in the future that you can rely on me and I can rely on you, and that we will have a healthy relationship of just helping each other.
I actually really wanted to come back to that when you said, because that's hanging in my head right now, is you wanted to be a pillar of responsibility to your friends.
To people
I care about, yes.
That might be the heaviest thing you've ever said, by the way.
Thank you.
But where did that need come from? That need to be not valued, what's the word I'm looking for? That word to be that feeling to want to be relied upon.
Mainly because it's no secret to you two guys, and I'll say it right now for people who are listening in, possibly, that I have relied a crazy amount on my family, especially my family, and definitely with my friends, with just trying to get my life back on track, trying not to be a lazy piece of shit, just trying to be a normal human being with normal responsibilities and working as a functioning human in society. And in the future, I just want to let those people who help me know that it's not all in vain. Their help to me is not futile. I can show back their generosity in my own act of kindness. Because if I'm given something, I don't want to just give. I don't want to take and not give away, I want there to be like a healthy give and take sort of feedback loop through my principles and all that. That's just how I see it, though.
Okay, I actually really like that.
Yeah, that's that sort of goal to want to be a pillar to support others who have helped you is, I personally find those type of goals just awesome, because it's it goes to show your type of characteristic, So if someone's out there who's listening to this and you're the same, boom, now you you've just helped someone out with the exact same want that you have, because now they can identify with you, which is what is awesome about sort of podcasting these days, isn't it? That you can just identify with people, or just the internet in general. It doesn't have to be a podcast. You can just identify with people who have that same sort of goal as you do, who can actually help you as well achieve that goal, and in return you can help them achieve their goal.
Not just that, it's that idea that because there are some people out there that are genuinely alone. They don't have friends. They have and it has nothing to do with their opinions. Maybe it's just the hand they were dealt, the dice roll, whatever you want to call it. It's people that they're just plain alone.
Yeah.
And a podcast, it's not the most perfect way to help someone not feel alone, but it's definitely a good way to show people that they are, I don't want to say not alone just because it doesn't sound right. That there is a place for their opinion to be heard.
Yeah.
And there just the sheer scope of the potential reach that a podcast can have.
Yeah.
Because unlike a lot of things in my life, I'm treating this podcast as if it's already up there. Like I want to see that. I really want to see that. And I fully believe that the potential is there to do it. My God, I sound like every teacher I ever had from when I was 9.
Thank you, Mr.
Like
Now you get it. Now you
that
understand where they're coming from.
side ramble. I hated that thing where they would go, parent teacher nights, and it's just he's getting distracted, but he has the potential to. It's like, oh, could you just not sugarcoat it, please?
I never got that.
Like if a teacher actually turned and said to my parents, he is an annoying little shit. If he actually just sat down and did the work, I guarantee you he'd be one of the best in the class. That would have not only been super embarrassing, but that would have absolutely fueled me to to actually gun for that. Actually probably would have given me a competitive streak, because I don't really have a competitive streak. I barely play multiplayer games.
Okay.
Like multiplayer competitive games.
Segueing from what you just said, Mike, about you didn't have a competitive streak when you were younger, and a teacher just straight up being honest and calling you out for being irresponsible would have helped you. I guess the question is the same question that I asked Source. Who were you before this, basically?
Oof.
Before now.
I could answer that so many different ways. For starters, I'm not native to the country we live in. I left my home when I was 8, and I actually landed in this country on my 8th birthday, which is, it's kind of cool. Every time it's my birthday marks another year we've been here. And I had to, at that age, figure out an entirely new social environment. Like when you're 8, well, let's say when you're 7, you don't really have a social environment you have to acclimate to. You're all kids, you don't know anything, you're all just playing. But there's definitely a difference between how people where I'm from acted at that age to where people acted here. And that was difficult. I didn't have friends for quite a few years, and anyone that resembled a friend, I have no more contact with them. I didn't make my first real friend, like my first proper friend, till I was 11, and that was actually Source. I met Source when I was 11, and I met Nikana when I was. We were 14, right?
Yeah, you were 14, I was 13.
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting you're actually younger than me, because I look at you as the older brother, because you have the more leader-esque qualities. The first I went to 3 schools when I could have only gone to 2. The first school I went to, I was only there for 2 years. I probably was only going to be there for 3, maybe 4. I forgot what year they taught up to, and I know that the grading system in this country is very different to what other people might expect, so it might not even make sense to try and compare them. But I could try with the age range. I think they taught up to probably about 14, and I was 9 when I left. No, I was 10 when I left, and then I went to a second school, which was a much easier environment. It wasn't sunshine and rainbows, that was for sure. I was still a weird little foreign kid. But I made friends there, and some of those I have most of my friend group came from that school, and my intermediate school, I could call it. and then I went to high school, and then I met two of my very good friends there. The other one being Nakana, the other one not being in the podcast, and I won't say his name, but two really good friends, and I came from a place of where it was extremely, there was a lot of rules, and there was a lot of strictness in upbringing, and sometimes that was hammered down quite hard. Whereas you look at kids in this country where they're not so much forced. I don't want to say forced. They don't have just one dream, and that's actually something you notice with people our age now as well, is that they're actually nervous to go and study something because they feel like they're going to waste their time. And that's certainly why I didn't go to university, is because I was looking at people that were in uni. I was looking at people who dropped out of uni, and I was not confident that I was going to make it through, unless it was something that I was very passionate about. So who was I? Man, I have rambled so hard.
You have 5 years and 1,000 episodes to work on that.
I was someone who, well, I definitely was someone I wasn't proud of, that's for sure. I was actually quite self-centered. And I was also very hypocritical. If something didn't go my way, I wouldn't throw a fit, but I definitely wanted to. And I was definitely not pleasant to be around when that happened. But if something of a similar nature happened to someone else, I took pleasure in that happening. I believe that's called Schadenfreude, which is a German saying that literally means the pleasure someone gets out of someone's pain. Yep, sure. That's one way of looking at it as well.
Kind of a freak, but okay.
I prefer the German word.
Das a freak, yes. Das love sadism, yes.
Oh, das ist gut.
Oh, hey, my hand is hovering over the disconnect button right now, boys.
Take it away. Take the hand away. So take it away. But yeah, no. And nowadays I feel like I'm much more. I don't want to say I'm more open to failure, but I'm definitely not. I'm not afraid of it as much as I was. Like, failure still scares me. I think if failure didn't scare you, that would be impressive. But it definitely doesn't faze me as much anymore.
Okay.
For example, I would have, about halfway through planning this podcast, I would have gotten a brain full of negative thoughts saying, hey, this isn't going to work. There's 1,000 million podcasts just like this. Why are you trying? And I would have called it off. But here we are, first episode. This particular episode is just more of an introductory episode, and it's just meant to kind of show us what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right. So yeah.
Cool. So,
yeah, no, I think I answered that question, but I have doubts.
Yeah, everyone rambles on for a little bit, but it definitely gave a good show into who you are now, anyway.
You know, everyone rambles in this show, but I think I take the fucking cake.
Oh yeah. So the next question that I have for you, Mike, who do you want to be? Right? Who is it that you want to be?
Who do I want to be? I want to be someone who actually does something with their life. The idea of being in a typical 9-to-5 job scares me. And don't get me wrong, that's absolutely a fallback. Well, I shouldn't say a fallback, but that's definitely an option. I would like to do something out of the norm. because too many people do basic stuff, and it all kind of, no matter how long or how intricate the job title is, it always just seems to end up in the same place.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's wrong. If that's what you want to do, by all means. But for me, I mean, hey, we're all just here to, we're allowed to think, we're allowed to say this. It's, I don't want to do the normal thing. Like, I'm already at a point where my job bores me to death. And it's weird to look back on when I first started my job, because I loved my job when I started. Because I liked people, you see. And my job slowly made me hate people because they all seemed the same.
Okay, so basically, what you're saying is, who you want to become is someone who doesn't waste. I wouldn't say waste their life, because there's nothing wrong with a 9-to-5 job.
No, there's not.
For others, but for someone like you,
For me, if I was to go into a 9-to-5 job permanently, that would feel like a waste of my life.
yeah,
For me.
okay, and you want to get back to kind of, I don't know, liking people, I guess, like actually.
Yeah,
enjoying
I would like to get
people?
back to liking people, because as much and this I've had this opinion all throughout. No matter how many times I say I hate people, I always end up saying to myself, I hate people, but it's the number one world resource we've got. If you can work with people, you can have any job in the world.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
See, this is already where we want to be, because we're already we're already formulating an opinion of like, the 9-to-5 job sucks.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not saying that in an aggressive tone. I'm not saying the 9-to-5 job idea sucks. Come at me, but like, the idea that we can say that kind of thing, like,
Yeah.
because to me, like, I've never met someone who's depressed in a 9-to-5, but it's just not appealing to me.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I don't know, it just isn't. I feel like you do hit a points in your life somewhere, if anywhere, where you go, you can't really give a proper explanation to something. You just don't.
Yeah.
Because that's being human. You don't always have to have a thesis to justify.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In some cases, I feel like that's just a gut feeling.
Yeah.
And for all intents and purposes, that might very well be the wrong feeling, but a feeling nonetheless.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, no, I really can't add more to that. That's about it, man.
No, that's fair. Those are two really good, solid answers. Your first kind of answer to the question, you actually gave a decent testimony too, which was awesome.
How about you, Nakana? Who do you think you were back in the day? Who were you?
Ah, bro, I got this. So, I guess you.
Watch us drive.
I guess you'd put me in the whole like edgy 16-year-old or edgy 14-year-old group. You know, like, how would you say it? Filthy Frank and iDubbbz, when they were all edgy and cool. Enjoyed kind of, how is it? Just like edgy content, saying stuff that just make people mad. Online troll, that sort of stuff. Like, that was me. But, you know, I kind of left that at like 17 when you kind of realize that that's just like childish. That's just, you can't stay like that. And this point I kind of hit was, I hit that point where it's like, well, I can't actually stay like this because it doesn't actually benefit anything other than myself. So, I guess who I was, edgy, an edgy teenage boy. I think most guys kind of had that phase. A lot of dudes had that phase in our generation. Pessimist. World sucked. Everything was gonna burn anyway, so why should I care?
On that note, well, the first time I ever met Nakana, I thought he was a pyromaniac because he literally always talked about burning something down.
Yep. True. And I meant it.
It actually made me dislike him for quite a while. I actually got genuinely annoyed at him, and I didn't think we were going to be friends, and here we are.
Here we are, is it 7 years later?
It is 7 years.
Yeah, 7 years later. Look at that.
Exactly, actually, because we're now in 2022. How about that?
Exactly, how about that? But, yeah, no, so that's who I was. I was edgy, I was a troll, I was pessimist, kind of a douchebag. But then kind of changed. I hit a point of like, alright, you can't stay like this. Something has to be better than this.
And that kind of actually leads into one of the ideas of, well, one of the many reasons why I think depression is so common these days is that the media does nothing to tell you that the world could get better. It just constantly tells you that the world sucks.
Okay, hold on. We won't go down that rabbit hole, okay? Because that's
Oh,
that's
man!
a rabbit hole. That can be next episode.
And that could legit be its own topic.
Oh yeah. So
Okay.
there we go. Look at that. Next episode's already been discovered. Media and
Depression.
depression.
Boom.
Well, there'll be a better sort of title.
I guess I'll just ask you your own question back to you. So, who do you want to be?
I guess like the one big plan I have is like to be kind of like what you said, Source, about being like a pillar for the ones you care about. But I kind of want to be a pillar for like the community or something like that, from my local community or my outer community or whatever. Some way where I can just encourage others to do good, or like enable others to do good. So, like one of the things I have is like a dream that I have is starting like I don't know what the word is. It's like a social fund. So I can't touch the money that gets put in there through donations, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that was raised by good people to do good, and I want to be the person that kind of enables them to be able to do that goodness, because a lot of times it's hard. It is hard to do good stuff now. It's so easy to kind of like self-preserve, whatever the word is.
Self-preservation.
Yeah, it's very easy to do that. So I think the person who I want to be is someone who enables others to do good.
So you kind of want to be the person who helps people get down the better path.
Not even that. Actually, no. Yeah, no, you're right.
Because I'll be honest, you do that for me almost 100% of the time.
Yeah, like I try to kind of like give other people, or like I'll just use you for an example, Mike. I try to give you ways that you can dig yourself out of a hole, right? So I don't actually get you out. I just give you the tools or the resources that give you the skill set to get out.
But of course, at the end of the day, it's completely up to you whether or not you use those tools to its fullest advantage.
Exactly. Because I don't like being one of those dudes who are like, look, here's this bit of advice, right? You either follow it or die, right? Because I feel like sometimes, and I'm at fault for this, because I think I used to be like this. It was like, you ask me for advice, yet you don't follow it. Why are you shocked that you're hurt? Blah blah blah.
Oh, dude. But yeah, I like not on a ramble, but like it. I remember this too when we would speak about not so much mutual friends we had, but more like friends you had that I got to meet, and on average, it was actually scary. Though you were such a pessimist, there were actually points where you were right.
Yeah.
Like I remember there were these two, and you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. There were these two friends of yours who got together, and you told them both not to. And
I told them not to. Is I kind of suggested to one of them that they wouldn't really be a match, and you're just gonna waste time.
yeah, and you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
And then they ended up doing it, and it didn't work out. And I don't want to say you called it, but I feel like at some point, it's one of those, like looks like chicken, tastes like chicken, smells like chicken kind of thing.
Yeah. I think so. How I responded to that was at first, because I think I told them when I was like 16. At first, I was like, "That's so annoying. That's stupid. Blah 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 blah. Why would you do that?" And then I kind of like got over it because I realized it's not my life. Like it's actually not for me to say who they should and who they shouldn't get with, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
And when it did kind of go down, the whole situation that they went through, I didn't say I told you so. I didn't even feel like saying I told you so. I just kind of was like, oh, okay, well that sucks for you. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Like
You actually stopped talking to these people too. Like this isn't like a self-interview, but like this actually, I feel like this actually caused a rift in your friend groups.
It wasn't that it caused a rift. I just saw where that friendship was leading for me, and it wasn't leading down anything good for me. It would feed into my pessimism, or it would feed into my already dark, horrible sense of humor, or my dark opinions about other people, etc., etc. So it wasn't a good friend group to be around anyway, and that kind of just pushed me over the edge.
All right then. Well, that is another really good piece of advice for anyone that would be listening to this, is that surround yourself with people who lift you up, not people who keep you down.
Exactly.
That's a good way of not only building up a type of characteristic where you want to always improve yourself, but it also kind of, if you get that is what you express outward, and that stuff is contagious in the best way possible. It's like a smile.
This is actually a pat on the back for Sauce, because he's a good friend to you. He really is.
Yeah, but I don't talk to him nearly as much. Hopefully this podcast changes things.
I'll be completely honest with you, Mike. I really don't think I'm a good friend myself, but I'm glad you guys think so.
Well, to be fair, me and you did kind of verbally bully him into actually moving in with us next year, which he is doing.
I feel like I genuinely
Next year. This year.
Yeah, this year. Yeah.
This year.
I genuinely feel like I would compromise my friendship with these two if I didn't.
Yeah, you would. You really would. I'd be so pissed at you.
This isn't gonna end the friendship, but the idea of compromising it is just, and plus that makes it easier for us podcast wise, is that if we're all in the same house,
Exactly.
we all can start on time.
Yeah, we can all start on time. Hey, Mike, start on time, you silly
Yeah, no more gardening for you to do, because who the does that?
You're one to talk. You are one to talk about gardening.
Exactly! I'm the one talking to you about gardening, Mike. Doesn't that mean anything?
For context sake, Sauce once left his grass to get roughly about what? What would you reckon, Nakana? 3 to 4 feet high?
Probably 5. Got to my shoulder.
Probably
at one
5.
point.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
He's giving me gardening. He's critiquing me on gardening.
Yeah. But guess
No,
what?
I'm
He's
critiquing-
not late because of the lawns.
Because he doesn't do them.
He does.
Look.
Have you seen them?
Mike, I'm not critiquing you for gardening. I'm critiquing you the fact that you garden in the first place, and you're late.
I think
Brother?
what's actually kind of pissing you, definitely pissing you guys off, is the fact this mother doesn't even garden. Why is this the thing that makes him late?
You don't garden at all. Your garden
Hey
is
guys,
the size.
I'm so sorry for being late, but I had to garden with my mom real quick, even though this podcast was my idea, and I want to do this for so long, lol.
Oh no, man.
Welcome to our friendship. We all love each other very much.
Nakana's the kind of guy who will call you a piece of shit and then buy you a milkshake. That's the best way I can describe it.
Look, it's just called brutal honesty, but I'm nice about it sometimes. I'm a lot better than I used to be.
Well, I don't know about that.
No, I agree with Zakana. Definitely he's gotten better with that.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, I never took him seriously when he gave me shit.
Yeah, exactly. Because I
knew it wasn't real.
Probably
I
because you
knew-
guys are friends. You guys know each other.
Yeah, but I know there was. I can't remember why, but there was at one point where you were just genuinely disappointed in me, and I can't remember what that was.
It's been a few times.
Oh, thanks. Yep. All right.
What? I've told you this. Why are you shocked?
You're making people think I'm a liar.
Anyway, thank you for joining us for our first ever podcast. Awesome time to start it too. The first day of the year 2022. This is not a New Year's Revolution either. We're actually doing this every Saturday, 7 p.m. And I hope you can join us for the next one. And for that, we'll all see you in the next time. Goodbye.
There, guys.
I'm gonna smack my desk, alright? And everyone's gonna shut up and we're gonna go back to the way it was. Calm, collective, okay? And that's a message
Man.
to me too. Oh, wait, no. Well, I have to edit that. So, that's a message to me too, right? Hey, shut up!
Wait.
Shut up!
Who messaged you?
Shut up! Stop laughing at me!
Who messaged you?
Stop laughing at me!
You are so dumb. I can't believe we were doing so well this whole time.
This is-
Look, if
okay.
anyone was gonna do
Me.
it would be me.
It's-
Look, everyone, shut up. Look, we're gonna go back to where things
You know
were.
you are.